Okay, let's talk about the conclusions for literary analysis essays. And I want to do this in a fairly similar fashion to how we did it yesterday. So let's start with the question. What does a conclusion for an essay do? Smriti. Instead of using the word string, I like your idea, but I'm going to use my fancy word, integrate. By the way, you've seen me use this word several times, and Smriti is demonstrating that she understands exactly the concept I'm talking about. Integrating means taking a lot of different parts and joining them together so I see how they relate, and that requires, on your part, explicit writing. You cannot leave it up for the reader to infer. You must actually string it together for them. You must integrate it. And we've talked about links to the claim before. So the conclusion paragraph is a big linking or integrating paragraph. Ian. What else? I knew you'd hit the first two pretty easily. By the way, I will change one word also on Ian's. I changed Smriti's. I'll change Ian's. I don't like the idea of restating. What will I throw in there instead? Rephrase. Thank you, Lexi. Because students who copy and paste their thesis statement into their conclusion have just destroyed a lot of the fluid nature of their essay. It's a speed bump. And it looks artificial, it feels artificial. It's 2 pages, folks. You remember what that thesis statement is. And when you read it word for word again, you think, oh, there's copying and pasting going on here. I'm no longer talking with somebody. Now this is a student doing an assignment. And you want to avoid that impression. Ellie, did you have an idea?
Yeah, I don't know if this goes with integration, but bringing up the 3 main points again.
Oh, okay. So we've got... I think it's a little bit different. Actually, I'll show you how it relates. Summarizing main points. So if you have 3, you summarize the 3 main points. If you have 2, you summarize the main 2 points. And I think what we've got going on here, Ellie and everybody else, is these 2 together are integration. When you remind your reader of how your claim and your main points relate to each other. What's the problem with this? What's the problem with this strategy on an intro? Yeah, conclusion. Stop putting words in my mouth. Yeah, what's wrong with this in a conclusion? Why? Doesn't it turn into that, kind of no matter how you do that? If you summarize the topic of every single developing paragraph, aren't you going to get into listing? And it seems like you're restating and just saying everything over again. When might you want to actually list every main supporting detail? When would you have to remind a reader of those main supporting details? And I'll give you a hint. It's not in one of these 2-page essays. When would you want to, in a conclusion, remind your reader of every supporting detail? No, you're always trying to prove a point. Shouldn't matter whether it's persuasive or analytical. You're still kind of proving a point. There's some different logic involved. You're correct. However, you're still kind of proving a point with the essay. I'll ask the question again and hint in the question, the way I asked it, is your answer. Why would this not work for a 2-page essay? Sam? What's too long? Conclusion will be too long. You're closer to it. The essay's too short. If you've just read 2 pages, have you forgotten those main ideas? No, you've read 2 pages, folks. So if I get to a conclusion paragraph and you're suddenly giving me 100 words that restates the paragraphs that I've just read, it seems like you're redundant. Where would you want to summarize? If you're writing a huge paper. If you're writing a 10, 15-page paper, and you've got main ideas, 3 main ideas strung over 10 to 15 pages, sure, in your conclusion, remind me of your main ideas. You know why? Because I've probably forgotten about the one on page 2. Because that's a big space of time. What students do is they write the essay for a page and a half, and then they write the essay again in a paragraph. And you think, I just read all this. It's fresh in my mind. I don't need that much reminder. I could probably use a rephrasing of the claim, though. Because that happened in the intro paragraph. There's been a lot of discussion since then. So you'll probably want to rephrase the claim. You're probably confused at this point and wondering, well, if that's all I'm doing is rephrasing the claim, then I'm going to have a 1, maybe 2-sentence conclusion paragraph. Have you ever learned what else you could include in a conclusion paragraph? Sam?
You could like connect it with the theme and the intro, if you have a common theme in the intro.
Oh, not a theme in your intro, but you've got a good idea. This is what we call, and I think this is where you're going, Sam. And Sam, you may know this from some of the debate cases that we write, a framing device. So if you began with a little story, you end with that same little story. If you began with a quotation, then you may refer to that quotation again. That's a framing device. You begin where you end where you began. True. This is one method of doing this. Sorry, I won't labor the point anymore. I want you to close your essay impressing me that what I have just read is worthwhile and important. Number of different ways of doing that. But let's look at the point. I want you to end your essay letting me know that I just read something important. Possibly leaving me with a thought to continue to consider connected to this. But I need to know that I just read something important. Now this is the sophisticated and difficult part. You'll be able to do this with no problem. You'll be able to rephrase the claim. Sam has given you one sort of way of accomplishing this importance or value. This is a rhetorical trick called a framing device. We can take a look at that. We won't really take a look at that so much right now with the literary analysis essay. But let's go through it. Concluding the literary analysis essay, remember the claim that we were working on yesterday. In Secret Life of Bees, Sue Monk Kidd uses several female characters to explore the different qualities of motherhood. Let's imagine that this essay followed. I'm not going to write or read the entire essay, but imagine that you've got 3 developing paragraphs, each one focusing on a different mother character for Lily. The question comes, how would you write the conclusion? Don't worry, I don't want you to write the conclusion, I just want you to consider. And we begin where Ian told us. We want to rephrase the claim. And notice that I've italicized that because it's not just restate, it's not just copy, it's rephrase the claim. When Lily ran away from her home, she expected to find only one mother. Instead, she found 3. Kidd wrote these experiences to explore the fullness with which mothers can love, guide, and sacrifice. If you look at that initially, you might think, well, that's radically different from this. It's not actually radically different from this. What I've got is Kidd using female characters to explore the qualities of motherhood. Those are my key ideas in my claim. Here, I've got Kidd using the experiences of Lily encountering different people to talk about motherhood. I've still got my key ideas. I still have my claim, but I've rephrased it. There's no way that this feels like a copy of the claim from the intro paragraph. It feels now like a continuing of a discussion